So BYOD is bring your own device. What it means is that children at our school who have a device at home have the potential to bring it in. And the device at the moment has to be an iPad, and the reason behind that is to make sure that all groups of children are doing the same sort of things and it all looks the same, so when the teacher explains it, it's really easy for them to all see what they're doing and they all will be able to follow it. And also if we have any problems, it's really easy to troubleshoot because we know the device, and so we can fix it quite quickly and quite easily.
The benefits of having BYOD at school for the students are that the internet becomes accessible and that every student has a device. We've got over 100 students at the moment at Auroa Primary School bringing devices as part of our BYOD program, which allows us to have one-on-one devices for every student at the school. And having nearly 200 students at the school, we have 200 students regularly using their devices.
We're using them a lot in class. They are fantastic for the students learning. They're motivated, they want to go away and do activities. Mathletics I found quite challenging last year. It was really good and it helped them a lot for practicing their skills and knowledge. But I only had 6 or 7 in the classroom, whereas now I can have a whole group on mathletics and practicing their maths. For our word power, it's a lot better because they used to go away and just learn a word without hearing it, and you'd tell them, but often they forget, and there's no point in writing a word and practicing it when you don't know what the word is. So we use it for word power by recording the word, and then they go away and they can have that to listen to the word over and over as they're practicing writing it. Georgie, you are on spelling. Your word is could.
Delicious makes delicious.
What I've seen this year is that kids are engaged a whole lot more. I've seen kids, I guess, use their initiative a lot more. So instead of just putting something to the side, they've just found something out instantly. So just, using those teachable moments, I suppose, where in the past I might have said, how are we going to find that out? They're already doing it. So it's really good to see that. And just that possibility of them all being able to do something at the same time. So not having to wait for turns. And
having the devices means, and having the devices going home means the parents can access what the children are learning at home. We've also got all our planning accessible on our class sites. So that means the learning is not limited to the walls of the classroom. The kids can go home and show their parents what they've been doing. They can log on to their Google Drives at home and they can keep on working on what they've been doing in class. And the parents might like to open up the class's plans a week in advance and say, oh, we're going to be learning this week, and they can see how they can support their child at home with that. There's lots of links there for parents, there's lots of videos there for parents, and that learning can just happen anywhere, anytime.
The bring your own device is optional, so it's not a stationary item that they must have one. If they've got one at home, it's great if they could bring it, but before we went down this pathway, that's why we didn't do this a couple of years ago, because the school invested in its own infrastructure and devices so that we would always make sure that people who couldn't afford one or didn't have one would be provided for. So while you don't have to bring one, it's great if you can, because if you've got one at home, what that means is for a child who doesn't have one at home, they get more access to a device as opposed to what they would be missing out on by not having one at home. So yeah. So it has been a long journey to get to where we are today. So 2012 was probably the turning point. We were just PCs and no mobile devices at all. So we talked with our PTA and they made a very generous donation, and with the help of the TSP Community Trust, we applied for a grant, which meant that we could purchase the 130 devices we need to get started and make a really big impact. And at that time we took board and PTA and staff to schools to look at what it could look like with so many devices in the school. So then in sort of 2012 we passed, and we were using the devices. In 2013, and then 2014 it really started ramping up about how teachers could really use these effectively. And then we started to have all the experiences with children not being able to access what they needed to access. 8 iPads in a class for 24 kids, that was 1 to 3, so 2 kids had to wait while 1 kid was working on a device, and it slowed the learning process down, and it started to become a bit of a block as to where we were progressing. So then in 2014 we were thinking that this could be what the advantage would be if we had 1 device per child, and so one of our classrooms become a test for it, where we did with the board, where we thought about what would teaching be like for the teacher and the ease for the teacher to work in, and what would learning be like for children. And that's when we sat down as a board and said, okay, 2015, if you've got an iPad at home, or if you wish to invest in one, and as I said, it's not compulsory, you could bring it to school, and that would mean if we had 60, 70, 80 kids do that, that meant that we could get 1 for every kid in the school, which is ultimately where we sit today.
The devices and the technology that we have at school, I think, complements the traditional learning that we do. We still very much do traditional learning in a traditional sense. It's just that we use the technology to enhance it. So students still work in their books a lot of their times for some subjects, but they've also got the added advantage of using the technology to assist them, and also using the technology to make some of their presentation work better.
With each learning area, I try to have it mixed up, so there's never all the students on their iPads in one area. So in maths, like I said, I use it for mathletics, and I want to do more of the explain everything and getting them to go away and practice their strategies, so then another student who doesn't yet understand it can listen to another student explain it. And then they'll be doing other things in maths, so they'll be solving maths problems in their book, they will be playing maths games, they'll be practicing their counting with the hundreds board. So I generally just have 1 iPad activity. In literacy, I've got 4 rotations, so they're practicing reading to themselves, they're doing the word power, which is writing, making, as well as using the iPad of listening. Then we've got 1 activity which is solely technology based, an app called EasyWords, which is another app that helps them learn all those high frequency words, which is really beneficial for reading. And then the last activity we've got practicing handwriting. So I have a mixture of both technology and non-technology based activities.
Yeah, I think just because we're one-to-one iPads doesn't mean that's the only thing we're doing. You'll often find our kids out exploring around outside. That could be a writing activity. They could be, playing in the mud. They could be playing with the toys or with the water or building things with blocks. We understand the importance of having other experiences as well as the digital experience, and we try and integrate them together. The kids still know how to write with a pen and paper. They can still write in their writing books. They can still, they're still learning to use a dictionary and things like that, because those skills are still important for the children to have.
Yeah, I think you still do have to have that balance of some book work and some work on the iPads. I think that using the iPads has given some kids an advantage where they've found writing difficult, or the iPads can help them with spelling. That's held them back in the past. But again, it's just that engagement and that just, being able to send something out to everyone, they can just get going on it straight away rather than a worksheet, They can't lose the worksheet now.
I got it for 10.
Okay, what's she going to have? 10 of what?
10.
Okay, she had 10 cats. You're going to be a crazy cat lady.
10 cats. Woohoo!
Fantastic. I need to see the equation written down though. So not just the answer, I want to see the equation.
One thing parents are often worried about is, will my kid be able to look after their own device? And our 5-year-olds learn so quickly to take responsibility for their devices. They come straight in from school, They take them out of their bags, they unpack them, they put them away, they learn how to carry them safely when they're walking around the classroom, and they learn why it's important to look after them and what the cost associated with the iPads for their parents is. So, and then when the day's done, they're always the first ones to remind me that they need to pack up their iPad and take it home.
So at the start of the year we went over quite a lot, as well as creating our class treaty. We had a whole new set of rules and routines, and that was all based around the iPad, how you carry the iPad, where you put the iPad when you're not using it. And so we talked about things like carrying it with 2 hands, hugging the iPad when you're not using it, having it upside down, and just being really careful with them because we don't want any broken. To restrict anyone losing iPads, we have a safe, and there's a whole lot of slots, and they know at the end of each rotation, every time in the morning, before breaks, every time their iPad goes in where their name is, and then that gets locked up every break time and when we're not using them.
I mean, having a 5-year-old now has given me, I think, the full perspective, because children at year 6 and 7 we would expect can look after an iPad. I haven't seen a single problem of, trying to use other people's, and the kids look after them. And I've seen, with Sophie being 5, she looks after hers too. So it stays in her bag, we walk over there and she can look after that, and it comes home each day. The other thing I haven't said too is, like, parents can actually see what kids have done. I don't know if you do that, but I do. Like, I look at Sophie's and see what she's done. And that's really cool. Like, they're doing Explain Everything over there, and I can see her doing maths on there, and I think that is really cool.
One of the things with Auroa School, because of where we are, is that we may have a somewhat isolated location because of our rural location, but one of the really important things for the students is the students aren't disadvantaged at all because of where we live, because the technology allows them to compete, or the technology is as good as a lot of other New Zealand schools we know about. Our school and our clusters had the opportunity in the last 2 years to visit up to nearly half a dozen Auckland schools, and having seen those schools, we can say with our students that they have the opportunities that students have throughout the whole country through the technology.
Being second year in teaching, I feel like there's still so much more that I want to try, and I'm just getting snippets from all of the other classrooms and seeing the amazing things that they're doing, and doubling teacher time by using the iPad. So they're teaching a lesson, and then the children that aren't with them can be effectively being taught through the iPad from a teacher recording. And that's my next step for me, is I want to start doing more of that, and that's what I'm working on with my TAI at the moment.
Yeah, again, the benefit for us as teachers is that we get instant results and a detailed report of exactly what the kids have done and what they need to learn. So that's a major advantage. Yeah.
For a long time, teachers have been the gatekeeper to all the information. Children would go to a lesson, sit down, and only the teacher would have the information about what they're about to learn about. So what we're really focusing on trying to achieve is that if children wish to, they can go home on their iPads tonight and know what's going to happen tomorrow. And if they're a really motivated learner, they might read or watch a video or do some pre-reading about what they're wanting to learn about. So when they come the next day, they'll be able to ask teacher quite specific questions about what they want to know. Or alternatively, if they've got it, they don't need to sit with a teacher for 20 minutes and be told something they already understand. They can go to do a follow-up or something else in relation to it. And then the teacher could bring them back for more extension work. It's not really about the device. It's really about students engaging and taking charge of their own learning. And that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve, is student-driven learning rather than technology-focused.